My name is Paul Killoran. I'm the founder and CEO of Ordo. So today I'm going to take you through my presentation. So we talk a lot about journals in this industry. And I suppose I'm primarily concerned with the conference. It's what I've been living and breathing ever since I first hacked my first conference paper into an IEEE conference, and then was inspired to create a platform to manage conferences. So what is Ordo? Very simply, we're a conference platform. We manage scholarly workflows within the conferences. So if it's involving a submission, a peer review, integrity, the program, registration, mobile, whatever you need, we're probably doing it. And that's what we focus on primarily. So that's who we are. In terms of what I want to talk to you today about, as I was saying, we talk a lot about journals. But leaving aside the workflow aspect of what we do as a company, the content that we are capturing, and I'm here, I suppose, to advocate on behalf of the conference, the content that we're capturing is incredibly valuable and very often gets overlooked within the entire scholarly life cycle. And I want to sort of show you the kinds of content that we have and why it's incredibly valuable for you to think about how you can best use it, because you should be using it. So let me begin by sort of mapping the life cycle of research, right? So if we start kind of in the top left corner where I have prepare and conduct, I'm going to ask you in a second, like, where does research come from? Where do new ideas come from? And for me, like, the conference is intrinsic in that. I'll talk about that in a second. So obviously we think a lot about publishing and sharing that, whether that's conference proceedings, whether that's identifying opportunities for journal articles. This is the business of what we do. So there's a lot of focus there. In terms of discovering and reading, like, we think a lot about the article as the atomic unit for how we share research. But one of the things I'm looking at to see, do I see Simon Inger here from Cadmore? And we'll see Cassini talk about video. The great thing about conferences is that it's a very fluid sort of mechanism that allows for a lot of what we call gray material, right? And so there's a lot of value in that gray material. I'll talk about that then. And then when we come to assess and fund research, so what's the rising topics? Who are the rising stars and who are the experts in the field? The conference gives you all of that. So let's begin. Where am I on time? I have about 3 minutes left. So first, prepare and conduct. So the conference is the place where lots of us right now are having innovative conversations and inspiring conversations that will take away. The same is true of our technical conferences. And so this is the place where you get a chance to finally sit down and have a discussion with conferences, with colleagues. You get to see the research being presented in front of you, and you get to see ways people approach certain problems and how you might approach those problems yourself. So effectively, what I'm sort of saying to you is that the elements of innovation are built into conferences. They're there by default. It's about bringing people together to talk about ideas, right? So there's nothing necessarily new there. But essentially, if you can capture all of the insights in that corpus, you essentially have a data pool of what that innovation looks like. I'm going to share this statistic with you. I shared it last year, and it sort of blew a lot of minds, that 37% of all conference content ends up in a journal within 2 years. Now, as a statistic, it's sort of staggering, but actually it makes an awful lot of sense, because if you've early career researchers, the first time they're going to step out is at a conference. They're going to prepare the early stage work. That initial work eventually goes on to be a journal article. And so if you're trying to nurture a pipeline of journal articles for open access or whatever APCs, well, then actually looking at the conferences is a really good place to start, because that's where that community starts to sort of declare itself. And if you nurture those authors along, you will have journal articles coming at the end of it. Now, of course, there's also conference proceedings, which a lot of people overlook and ignore and maybe just think of for the physical societies. But when you think about it, when you run a conference and you have all this content, you can package this up and you can monetize it by selling it to your customers. You already have the content. And often people overlook that and they just focus primarily on the journals. 1 minute. Okay, so I'm going to go speed round here now. In terms of discovering really what I said to you about the flexibility of form. So oftentimes if you go to a conference, you're going to see presentations. The good stuff is in the presentations. That's why they tend to want to withhold them. They don't want the files being shared. But the same is true of the videos. and all the other assets that go with it. So if you want to actually go and see the true picture of it, and if particularly from a research integrity perspective, if you want to prove that someone's actually doing the work, go and look at the grey matter that they presented at the conference 6 months ago, and you'll start to see that this is genuine research because you can fabricate that work. In terms of assessing and funding stuff, as I said, who are the rising stars? What are the hot topics? You know, if we could actually capture all of the conversation that happens at conferences, that would be an indicator or a sensor for us to determine where we should be funding research in the future. And for me, the conference, and here we are as a community of scholarly industry, this is the community. And therefore, all the data that we capture, we're essentially creating a data model of our community. And the conference is the embodiment of the community. It's when the community decide to come out and meet up. So everything we say or do or publish or share or talk about is essentially data, the corpus that we should be using for lots of different reasons as to how we promote our scholarly communications platforms. So, you know, I'm advocating here on behalf of scholarly conferences generally. We're a platform, a workflow tool that captures a lot of that data. I don't have all the answers in the way to apply some of the things that I've shared with you, but that's why I'm sharing them with you today, because I hope you do. And we don't need any more data silos. We need to join the dots. Thanks very much.